Hello, this is Mark Silinsky from Kensington Security Consulting, where we bring education to national security. Welcome to the Kensington Weekly, a program that explores Islam's relationship with the world week by week. This is the third week in August 2026. Let's take a look at Jihad Watch and see what stories are posted. First, let's go to Germany to examine the migrant situation. This is a recurring theme in my podcasts. Years ago, then, Chancellor Merkel promised her countrymen that we can do it. She meant that native Germans could assimilate the new Germans. So, how is it going? Well, let's look at a few examples. First, there is a municipal swimming pool in Berlin. What can be controversial about a public pool? A drowning, perhaps? No, nothing like that. Maybe it was those burkinis, the combination of a burka and a bikini. You may have seen them. Imagine a wet, swimming mummy in a pool, and you will get the idea, but that is not it. No, this harkens back to the Nuremberg Laws of the 1930s. It is a sick story of rank racial discrimination. Again, Berlin allocated 300,000 euros, 255,000 pounds, to open a people's swimming pool. A people's swimming pool reminds me of the Volkswagen, yeah? Well, the pool announced 6 hours of restricted swimming. That is, no whites were allowed to swim during those hours. It was scheduled for August 14th, 2026. Now, let's look closer. From the article I read, an organization called Each One Teach One, which bills itself, in its words, as a non-discrimination collective, was behind the effort. And the reasoning for the exclusion? In the words of Each One Teach One. In doing so, the people's swimming pool provides access for people who are frequently affected by exclusion and racism. I am not sure that I understand the logic here. Do you? And while we are at it, what is a non-white? I mean, would Barack Obama have been invited or excluded? His mom was white and his father was black. Maybe he could have gone halfway, to his waist into the pool given his mixed race genes. I had never heard of Each One Teach One, so let's drill down a bit. This is from its homepage. We counsel according to the principles of empowerment and partisanship, which means that the person seeking advice with his or her history, desires, and interests is at the center of our work. In most cases, discrimination is subtle and difficult to grasp. Sometimes there is even uncertainty as to whether it was discrimination at all. Those seeking advice can also turn to us in order to find words to express what they have experienced. Wow. I am taken by this line. In most cases, discrimination is subtle and difficult to grasp. Well, folks, I don't think there's any subtlety to a pool sign that says people of color only. Do you? It is about as subtle as saying Raus Juden. Well, this group disagrees with me and other critics. They announced labeling this, the black-only restriction, as a form of discrimination is very revealing. Well, each one teach one. We agree on one thing. It is revealing. Yes, it reveals to me the continued obsession with race in Germany and elsewhere. After pressure, the government canceled this event, but some form of it will be back. Mark my words. What does this have to do with Islam? I don't have the details, but many of them are considered non-white and are from North Africa and presumably Turkey and the Middle East. So I would like to know who funds this group. Let me know if you have insights or opinions. Okay, let's move away from the pool and into the classroom. How well are things going there with mass migration? Here's a story from Hugh Fitzgerald about a school in the Rhineland. The headlines read, German teacher says school with 75% migrant background students is plagued by violence, drugs, and even prostitution in toilets. Speaking anonymously to Bild, special education teacher Carola Essam said many new Germans had arrived from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, or Ukraine. The teacher said, it's all blowing up in our faces. Every day is a challenge. Fights, shouting, This happens in the classroom and on the schoolyard, she told the German tabloid. We are happy if we can teach for a few minutes at a time. Sometimes the police have to come several times a week. Her students are high on drugs, which are sometimes peddled openly, and the scourge of drugs brings prostitution. A 15-year-old student prostituted herself in the school toilets for drugs and money. She became pregnant and left the school. And the academic implications this year, almost 40% failed to obtain their secondary school leaving certificate. Carola S. calls her school a holding pen controlled by students who, in her words, are mini Islamists. Well, they are also tomorrow's leaders and voters. Well, good luck, Carola. Let's turn now to that most puzzling friendship between gays and Muslim activists. I stress Muslim activists because garden variety Muslims consider homosexuality foul and criminal. More than a few would like gays thrown from tall buildings. This comes from Adam Zivo. British socialists fracture over Islamic homophobia in National Post. In Britain last week, Muslim clerics from the Group 5 pillar, concerned about the growing appeal of the gay lifestyle, presented a short, practical guide warning against the peril of the truth that dare not speak its name. Homosexuality was framed as an affliction that calls for compassion without compromise. Parents were further advised to monitor their children's social media. Well, this shouldn't be surprising, but how will this affect the Green-Red Alliance? I've written extensively about the partnership between leftists and Muslims. They are bound by a mutual hatred of the West, particularly of Israel and the United States. Can this friendship survive these strains? We will keep you posted. We now go stateside to revisit the ongoing comic saga involving the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC. I've discussed this organization a few times. The Justice Department zeroed in on the SPLC for funding the hate organizations it purports to investigate. Yes, the SPLC is anything but poor, and its leaders hardly live in poverty. Its leaders responded that they made payments to infiltrate hate groups. We'll see what comes out in court. But now let's look at CFO Heidi Barrick, who may be facing prison. Heidi was arrested in California on fraud charges. According to the charges, she paid off the KKK and other anti-black groups. I hope they make a tongue-in-cheek docudrama about this. It could be a lot of fun. It certainly has all the elements of satire. We have an unusual actor in Britain's Islamic scene, China. Investigations in the U.S. and Britain have revealed China's funding of anti-Israel groups, including Code Pink. This is from Nick Gutteridge, The Telegraph. U.S. politicians investigating alleged secret Chinese backing of Code Pink. I've discussed this group and profiled it in Cauldron of Terror. It is strongly anti-American and anti-Israel and appears to support communist China. I mentioned earlier that Neville Singham has contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to far-left groups. Code Pink apparently has received the most that spread Chinese communist propaganda. Okay, so why would China lavish millions to tarnish Israel's image in Britain? The author speculates that it is part of a larger effort to sow division in the West. Maybe, but Israel's image is very tarnished already. So I think that this is a curious case. Well, still in Britain, let's turn to comedy, but be careful. The wrong joke could get you arrested or fined heavily. I've presented more than a few examples of near-lethal humor, and I intend to offer more for a few reasons. First, it is a warning to my listeners that the wrong joke, and by that I mean a joke about Islam, is very dangerous these days. I've been through it with you before. Reputational damage can get you sacked, demoted, or forced to publicly repent. Second, I use these fines and arrests as markers of the Islamification of Britain, which is well underway. Third, these are sad tales for me. I earned my master's degree from Oxford in the late 1970s and early 1980s. England was both fun and funny to this young Yank. Well, as some Englishmen said, the past is a foreign country. This story comes from the British newspaper, The Telegraph. Stephen Gray, a retired police officer, made a joke. Whether it was funny is for you to judge. He wasn't laughing when he was charged with a criminal offense for sharing online posts critical of Islam. He confessed, I guess some of the posts may have been in bad taste. Some of them may upset one or two people, but I didn't think for 1 second it would be cast as grossly offensive by the police, the Crown Prosecution Service, and by the courts. Not for 1 second. And what were these offensive posts? The first had the words, time for mass deportation, alongside an image of a Middle Eastern man who was in his late 20s or 30s, and the words, children in need. The image had the caption, 12-year-old Mohammed recently arrived at Dover. Please donate to help him move from a 3-star to a 5-star hotel, which has a better halal menu, free Wi-Fi and Sky, and is nearer to a girls' school. The second image was a picture of a rasher of bacon and a man in a turban, alongside the caption, fun facts about bacon. People who eat bacon have a lower chance of marrying a 9-year-old. Well, I like the joke about bacon, but the judge didn't yuck it up, and he ruled against the former policeman. The judge ruled that the first joke, which was about migration, was, here I quote, not grossly offensive and related to a political issue that had been debated in Parliament. So he acquitted him on joke 1, no prison and no fine, but now came joke 2. This was the bacon joke, and yesterday's Bobby was found guilty as charged and fined £1,000. He is appealing the charge, and I will keep you posted. Please share your opinions about this. So that is it for this week. On behalf of Kensington Security Consulting, thanks for listening. Nothing in this or any other Kensington podcast represents the official view of the United States government. Until next week, out here